Welcome to Afterthoughts. God, fuck it, man. All right, Ryan, I'll give you that one. Afterthoughts has never been said before. Welcome to Afterthoughts, everybody. This is the show where we watch something and give you our thoughts after we've seen it. So I am your host, John Garcia. Joining me on this episode, our usual cast, co-host Ryan King.
Are you going to catch us up, Dixon? Did you end up watching Audition?
I did not watch Audition. I know, I apologize.
Okay.
That's
John, you need to not watch something, and then we all owe each other.
Yeah.
In 6 months, I'll pick Audition for its own episode, like you did with us with the Iron Claw.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go. Good payback. Also joining us is Michael Dixon.
John, what the fuck is this movie that you picked for us to watch this evening? I have so many questions. I don't even know where to begin. You should begin.
Some of them will be answered, I think.
I imagine most of them.
I don't even know what the fuck this movie is because, well, just a little bit of context. The movie that we're talking about is 2023's The Primevals.
4 weeks ago, several Nepalese shepherds killed a large anthropoid. It is perhaps the most important discovery of the century.
If we can discover how this creature crossed the genetic barrier from one life form to another, we'll unlock the mysteries of heredity.
You know you can't answer those questions without a living specimen.
Which requires an expedition.
What are you two after? Tigers? Buffalo?
Something even more dangerous.
We're searching for a Yeti.
But we've come too far to lose them now! Nothing!
Directed by David Allen. Well, it was directed by David Allen in his time. David Allen died in 1999.
Yeah,
So-
there's no way that leading man could have existed in society after 1996.
You're correct.
Yeah.
But I just a little context of why I picked this movie, because everybody out there is probably like, I don't fucking know what's going on. Why would anybody pick The Primevals? Just looking at the poster alone, I'm sure you're like, what the fuck is this? I'm running my monthly or my annual tradition. It's a month of movies in October. We all know this.
But you
on this
basically
podcast.
do this every month.
I do
John.
this every month, technically, but here
To
I have
some
a little
extent,
more
yeah.
celebratory. Yeah, there's a little more formalization.
More
about
pomp
it.
and circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm running Schlocktober, and we were talking about what's a good movie, and I looked at my list of Schlocktober movies, and I was like, well, I don't think I want to subject either of you to any of these movies. None of them seem to be like they would actually generate a good conversation. We'll see when we get to recommend or refute. But then I was like, all right, we're going to watch an American movie. That's what we're going to watch because it's like kind of tangentially related to Schlock. And Dixon was like, this doesn't look like Schlock. I don't know what this is. He's heard about it. It's got good reviews.
I
all
just
this stuff.
assumed you would have picked a Schlock movie, and so I was like,
Really thought.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
And then like the next day I heard about The Primevals and I was like, Dixon, you're getting your wish, buddy. We're doing Schlock. And so I picked The Primevals. The Primevals tells the story of not a former PhD student. He's not a doctor in anything. He's not a professor.
Yeah, he's just
like
a guy
disgraced.
who wrote like a random screed as his PhD thesis and then got kicked out of school or something.
Yeah, and everybody mentions it, and they're all like, God, you were like, if you just weren't so subjective about it, it would have been good. And you provided some, they give like really vague reasonings why.
But I was right, goddammit.
and then ultimately he was correct all along. It's all about an expedition to go find like the Valley of the Yetis, which are real. And we find out in the beginning of the movie they are.
They're real, and they have carefully shaved nipples.
They're mad as hell, and they have weird nipples.
Despite the fact that they are some sort of terrified species that hides in the woods and doesn't want anyone to know about its existence, they take the time to shave their nipples.
A mountainous yeti here in the middle of Ohio at noon in a conference room. Despite the fucking fact that they are obviously shaved in their nipples. They have some kind of razors. I don't know. Fuck it, that's my best Chalmers. We're cutting it. But I could only think of that when you said it, Dixon. Anyways, the Primevals. The Primevals, all about this disgraced dude that has somehow miraculously found out that he was right when other people kill a Yeti and they send it back. Well, first of all, those people don't even send it back. It gets smuggled back. But whatever. We're not going to talk about that.
How do you smuggle
I don't
a
understand
30-foot Yeti back into the United States?
We're not there yet. Okay, we're doing recaps on takes. Okay, we'll get into it later. Anyways, it's kind of a B movie. It's like a throwback, it feels like, to like 50s, 60s kind of B movies. And part of that is David Allen, the director. He worked with, Charles Bond, who was like the lead founder of Full Moon Studios in the 90s. They did a bunch of straight-to-video horror movies, Puppet Master, and some other stuff Ryan knows.
I gotta know.
And this was like a movie that was a passion project of David Allen's. He always wanted to do it, and they never had enough money. And he was told by Charles Bond, like, if you just work for less pay and help me with these other movies, eventually we'll have enough money to do your passion project. And then they got enough money and they did it. But it was supposed to have this Ray Harryhausen stop motion in it. And that took for fucking ever. So long that David Allen died before it could actually come out. So they directed the entire film beforehand, shot all of it on film. They got it all. And then the special effects just never got done. It stayed in development hell for 30 years. And it cost $4 million in total, which is the most expensive movie Charles Bond's ever paid for. Just hearing that alone, I've talked plenty of times on this podcast how I'm fascinated by those kind of time capsule films. And so I was interested to bring it to us because it's schlock, but it's passion project schlock. It's not vanity. And I mean, I just saw Megalopolis, which is a whole other story. But I figured this might be an interesting discussion because we haven't really talked about that era of B-movie films, or like, we don't really get to engage with it anymore now. There's not a whole lot of that in contemporary film. And it just seemed interesting that something like this would come out in 2023, no less, and just be like dumped for people to see. And that it was finished, that somebody's dream was finished posthumously. So it's kind of interesting. So the things that I liked about it were obviously the stop motion. I don't think that I cared as much about the story. It had weird twists and turns. I wish that it was a little more campy in some of the acting. It felt like direct-to-video acting for me. I just kind of got that vibe from all of it.
I assumed it was shot on video because it was pretty like blurry and like just not super well done.
But I'm pretty sure it was film. They had a shit ton of money when they shot it, and they used to do things on film. So I don't know. Maybe it was transferred to something and then transferred again. Who knows?
Could be. It felt like it was a little overexposed, and I was like, this just feels cheap. But
yeah. And then I enjoyed parts of the score, which were all done by Charles Bond.
Someone wrote an original score for this movie.
Yeah, which is pretty fascinating. Like, that was just like, I was like, hey, that's great. Good. I'm glad that they didn't. That's the thing is, like, I've seen other movies that have come out in modern time that have like been delayed, and they have like all these shitty plug-in effects and other stuff that like, you can just tell that whoever made this, the production team behind it, they wanted to make a movie. Like, they were trying to actively make each piece unique. And, you know, it fails in some areas, and I feel like it succeeds in mostly the special effects, the visual effects aspect of being kind of impressive and throwback. But that's kind of my takeaway from it. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Ryan, having just watched several other Full Moon features that will be disclosed later.
Yes. Well, yeah, I like PTSD when the Full Moon logo came up at the beginning of it.
Ryan has just been watching a lot of movies with like full ass in them. That's what we're talking about here.
It's my job.
Surprising, yeah, not enough cheesecake. That is one thing about this. This movie doesn't have the telltale signs of schlock, which is boobs for some random reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very classy.
Yeah, it was kind of missing.
We didn't get those like 55-year-old boobs.
Yeah. It's definitely a throwback to like B movies or sort of like adventure movies. To me, it's essentially just Land of the Lost.
Yeah. I
Right?
can see that.
Like they just find this, I don't know, civilization that's in the Himalayas. The fucking Yeti almost has no bearing except to get them there and then be a thing they see.
He's an
I
emotional
guess.
crutch, Ryan. He's the heart of this movie.
I kind of like the beginning of the movie. I'm kind of like, the fuck is going on? And it just sort of like, I only remember, I know who the characters are, but honestly, I only remember two names because they
say their name all the time.
One of them is Rondo, Montana. That's definitely one of the names that you remember.
That's a hell of a name. Yep. That's
it's Hannah's father, actually.
And then
Chest Rockwell.
when it gets when it actually gets to the stop motion, it gets fun for a bit. Like that, it actually was enjoyable, and I was kind of digging that part. And I wish there was even more of that. Honestly, is it worth the price of admission?
Meh.
I think this cost me $5 to rent. Definitely not worth it.
Yeah. I think the same. I rented it. I didn't buy it, and I'm not going to go back and buy it. But it is good stop motion. Like that was fun. But it could have been like a TikTok video. They would have been like, dude, that guy did some good stop motion, and then move on with your life.
Interesting. I actually didn't think the stop motion was very good. Like it was stop motion and therefore is interesting.
Yeah.
Like just
fun.
by its nature, it's a fun thing to do. But I didn't think it was like, it was very kind of jerky to me. Like it wasn't very smooth. It looked like it was kind of shot in like fast motion or something where you're seeing kind of the arms jump as the character is reaching and things like that.
Yeah, it definitely has the Harryhausen like feel to it, which is those old and they jittered because he accelerated the film because it looked shitty.
Yeah.
Right. And so it has that feeling. I don't know if that's intentional throwback or because at the time that's what stop motion was.
Well, I mean, they finished the stop motion later, didn't they?
Recently. Yeah. So I think they were trying to throw back. Yeah, stop motion now, especially if you look at what like Leica is doing, is on a whole fucking another tier of excellence compared to this. But yeah, no, it was just like fun because it was just stupid fun.
Yeah,
but honestly, not enough to like follow any up with it again.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me, Ryan. When I saw it, I had fun during those scenes too. And then everything in between, I was like, when are we going to get to the fireworks factory? Like,
yes,
I just want to see it again.
Oh, we'll get there.
Anymore. Yes.
Dixon, what were your thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, this movie's ass. When did they, before I get into all my thoughts, when did they do the stop motion on this? Did they just do it all recently? And somebody found this footage like, oh, it's missing stop motion. I'll just do the stop motion now and then release it. Or is this something that was done in parts over the course of 30 years?
I think it's over the course of 30 years. I think that there might have been a break or a pause because Charles Bond is like notorious for bankrupting companies and running out of funds and stuff. And so it kind of became, I'm pretty sure that kind of like, we're going to push pause on it and finish it later.
It's amazing how much Bond can run shit into the ground when all of these movies' budgets are in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And honestly tend to make that back.
Yeah.
But still is a disaster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is one of the worst acted things I've seen in quite some time. Really, all the actors... The guy who plays Rondo Montana is not horrible. I feel like he's just being himself, but like that's fine for the role. Everybody else is pretty awful. I don't like the movie opens with like some ridiculous scene of this guy being like, I found the evil thing, I have to go kill it now. And this woman's like, oh, please don't kill it. Like, promise me you'll just try to capture it. And he's like, fine. And they go out there and all of a sudden you see like all these guys fighting this Yeti and trying to lasso it.
Yeah.
And
They're like,
just
hold
an
it down.
absolutely ridiculous scene where you have like the Yeti has to be like 30 feet tall, right? At least 20 feet tall, and compare it to all the humans around.
Because they have a real model of it or something for the production.
It's fucking huge, and you have these guys like lassoing really accurately, throwing it around this thing's neck, and it's like. Okay, there's like 3 people holding ropes attached to this thing, and they're actually holding it down and keeping it from moving. I'm like, well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, you would just throw those people away immediately. Instead, he has to like cut the rope, like yank the rope apart to get away.
Yeah.
But like all the physics are kind of fucked in this. The plot is really stupid. Like, you know, this dude. After this cold open, we go to this dude just walking up looking very confused to this building. And then some guy walks up to him and is like, hey, man, I think I remember you. You coming to this thing? Cool. Yeah. Like, you're probably really excited about this, right? Because your crazy theory was true. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just got this envelope. It told me to come here. And, you know, go like, I don't know. It's just
everybody has a case of involuntary exposition.
Yes. Just so much expositional vomit throughout this movie. Just really dumb characters that have no chemistry whatsoever. I just kind of didn't have very much fun with this, except in the scenes that were like purely stop motion, and it kind of jumps the shark toward the end of the movie, and you're like, all right, fuck, let's see where this goes. But we spend way too much time with these humans who
There's
cannot
so much
act,
build up for
and the
nothing.
dialogue is so terribly written, and that British woman is just way too British, and it's just.
I did love her death scene.
Oh my God!
Spoilers, everybody. Her death scene was fantastic, or the thing leading up to her death scene.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much exposition, but I still don't
know
fucking get it.
Yeah, and it's like So this dude was in this PhD program, wrote a thesis saying that he believes that Yetis are real, and turns out they're actually real. And so his old professor invites him back to this unveiling of this massive stuffed Yeti. Apparently, like backstage, they have the whole skeleton and his brain in a jar, but like they have like a stuffed version for everyone else. And like they're like, this is the big reveal that Yetis exist, and you're showing a stuffed version. Like, how did the taxidermist not leak this to the press? And you know,
how did they get it into that building without anybody seeing it?
They would have had to destroy one of the walls to get it inside there.
Yeah, like helicopter it down.
Yeah, and they're like this woman is like, oh yeah, our woman on the inside smuggled this Yeti out of the Himalayas. The Nepalese government is really angry. They think it's theirs.
First of all, most British fucking thing you could say.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, this is in the London Museum, whatever it's called, where they steal all the shit from around the world. But yeah, I don't like all this is very dumb. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, you were right, but you didn't have any basis. You just kind of happened to luck into writing a thesis that turned out to be true. Do you want to come and find the Yetis with me and write a book explaining to the world about the Yetis?" And they go on this expedition, and I don't know. It's just
really,
it's all so dumb.
I think that it was all because she wanted to fuck that guy. I think she wanted to fuck Matt.
The
that's really what it was.
Small amount of chemistry that existed was between those characters. It still did not feel real at all. But I was like, oh, yeah, okay, we're going to have a weird age gap in this relationship.
Yeah. Well, how does it feel to have it reverse, Jimmy Stewart? The ghost of Jimmy Stewart. Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement that none of this makes any sense. But if you watch like any Ray Harryhausen movie, it's like the exact same. And so I felt like it did a good job being an homage to that, which is like not a justification to watch it, but it made it like for something that I have nostalgia for, because I watched like Jason and the Argonauts and like there's the one where cowboys lasso dinosaurs. Like that's another one.
Okay.
And I just remember that.
So that may be a direct homage.
Fucking wild. Like it's absurd. Pretty much anytime I see that kind of stop motion, I'm like, all right, when is somebody going to throw a rope and then the rope frame rate becomes a little different? Like,
Right.
Those bits are definitely fun. But yeah, like they have like Lord of the Rings level walking through the mountains, kind of boring at times, where I'm just like, that was more engaging because there's a lot more like epic music and whatever. Here, it just kind of was like, let's go camp. All right, we're done camping now. Let's move on.
There were also scenes where they're like, let's camp here for the night. And then they would not even show it get dark. And they would just show them walking again. And they'd be like, the sun is up now. We're continuing on our journey.
Let's get back to the stop motion, everybody. Keep going. Yeah, we didn't even talk about Sika, who's the brother of the guy who was like, I need to go out and kill that evil at the beginning.
That's the only other name I remember.
Yeah, that brother gets killed, and then Sika becomes, he's Sika Vengeance.
Siku, wasn't it?
Siku? I don't know. He seeks vengeance.
Yeah.
And there you go. That's pretty much his whole character motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of treated, he's totally othered by the group. They're just like, this fucking guy, he's just here to be a guide and we don't care anything about him. But at one point, Rondo Montana just is like, yeah, that's good. Good job, Sika. And like gives him like a dad pep talk about some shit and gives him a gun and is like, you fire it and we'll come running. That's right. And like, he's like, okay, I got it. There's like no rapport between any of the characters that's built. Despite them having like nighttime scenes, you'd think when they're camping, even at one point, like Claire, the British lady, wanders into Siku's tent and he's praying to a shrine of his dead brother. And he just like turns around and she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. And he's like, no, please come in. And then they have no conversation of substance.
Yeah,
There's nothing that happens after that.
It is Siku, Siku.
Okay, there you go. Siku. Yeah. You would think that there would be like some kind of, when my brother was killed by Yetis or something, but no, we just see Siku try to kill a Yeti and that's about the extent to which everybody realizes he's a little dangerous to have on the mission because he wants to kill them. Because Yeti bad.
Yeah, I mean, you would expect that Rondo would like end up with a girl or something like there would be some, but nope.
Or the lead ending up with the girl. Yeah, there was just no romantic interest at all. Except maybe between the lead and the professor. But
which I was totally here for. Yeah. They hugged.
That was the closest relationship. Yeah.
She's like, hold me.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the scene where we meet Rondo Montana?
Yeah, please. Let's talk about that. That's a great scene.
So, like, they decide they're going to go on this expedition. The lady professor and the main guy don't know their names. 90s haircut bro. They
said
go
Matt several times.
I don't care. they go to Nepal and they're seeking out somebody to lead them on this expedition to find the Yeti, and they go knock on the door. Nobody answers. And then there's just this like super racist scene where they're assaulted by random foreigners to steal their money. And then Rondo Montana bursts out of nowhere and just beats the shit out of these guys that are assaulting them. Then like he knocks a guy out, then turns down with a knife toward his shirt and pants and is like cutting downward, and you're not really sure what he's doing. Then they cut to British lady's face, appalled,
shocked.
And then cut back to Rondo Montana holding shards of shirt and pants, and he says, now he's gonna have 2 headaches in the morning. Like, what the fuck? Did he just cut that guy's dick off?
Yeah,
what happened in that scene? I'm so confused.
I thought he scalped the guy for a second, but like,
yeah, I didn't know what he was doing. I guess he's leaving him naked.
No.
2 headaches. I'm assuming he damaged his dickhead, right? Like he did something bad.
Surgical
down there.
incision on
I
the
don't
head.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows what Rondo Montana does? In the privacy of his own public street.
But then aside from that, Rondo Montana is portrayed as this super nice guy who just like really knows a lot about navigating the terrain and hunting for big game and stuff.
I feel like him, Crocodile Dundee, and the dude from Jurassic Park that's like the raptor wrangler are like brothers, and he's like the worst of the brothers. Like nobody wants to hang out with Rondo Montana. He had to rebrand. Yeah, like that scene, I remember being like, oh, we're going to do, and I thought for a second, the guy that was holding them up was going to be like, I'm Rondo Montana, and it's been a trap all along, but like, no, it's just another fucking white dude that comes out of nowhere and is like, it's me. And even then he's like, oh, you guys haven't heard, somebody's like taking you for a ride. I guess I'll hear you out though. And I was like, what? No, like you can't just, all right, fucking decide. And he's been looking for the Yeti for however long and thought it was legend and like, that whole expositional
and they're
dump.
begging this guy who they just saw circumcise someone in the streets to take them on this expedition into the wilderness in search of Yetis.
Hey, like, Rondo Montana could be an ordained rabbi. You don't know.
the man who he circumcised was not Jewish.
He is now. That whole thing of them being like, we can trust you. You're a level-headed person. Just... I guess, he saved them. So they were like, yeah, sure, fuck it. You make sense.
I guess.
I don't know. This whole cast, everybody just constantly is like fucking up, it feels like, throughout the movie. And they all continue to fuck up together through everything. And nobody stops to ask if they should continue going, or like there's a whole scene too where they added in, they're about to go into a giant fucking cave. How many caves look like skulls? Are they? I'm confused.
Yeah, did
Are
they have time?
etched,
I was like, who carved it?
Yeah. It's like a Yeti skull too. So like, I guess the spoilers, everybody, there are fucking aliens in this movie. I guess the aliens did it. I don't know.
The Yetis, the aliens, the ape people.
The ape people. Yeah.
The Neanderthals or
Holy
whatever.
2001 Batman. This fucking a whole apes living in a testicle village that happens. And it's just like, I don't really know to what part. And it also like, them leading up to that is so much of the movie. Like when they get to the land of the lost or fucking the center of the earth, whatever the fuck this is. After that, everything kind of goes relatively fast. We have like one camping scene, and that's probably where it slows down. They're like, we need to do field work because we set that up for the plot. So you need to know that we're still scientists about it. There's so many moments I really wish could have just been done differently. Like there chances to have like emotional engagement with the characters, even if they were poorly acted, to at least see them sit around the campfire and swap stories or something. Like, come on, Rondo Montana must have seen so much shit. And I know we talked about like, I killed one giraffe and then I was going to kill the other and I saw the look in its eyes and it looked up at me and I was like, I can't do it.
I could have used some Jaws-esque, stories
You wanna
about
catch
the
yourself a
horrible
Yeti?
things he's been through. Yeah.
We were in the woods one night. Me and my buddy Charles. Like, yeah, and then he just goes on a whole thing about how the Yetis kept circling them for days after their plane went down in the forest. And they were 72 hours without sleep. We didn't have water. It could have been amazing.
That would have been great. That would have
Especially
been all for it. Yeah.
if they had that juxtaposed with cutaways to the stop motion Ray Harryhausen style Yetis.
That would have been very good.
It would have been both great homage and comedic.
He's got lifeless eyes like a doe's
And
eyes.
then Yeti looks directly into camera. Fucking brilliant, man. Brilliant.
At the end, Yetis actually had a lot of life and emotion in their eyes.
Yeah, they did. They did. That was one thing that I appreciated was that they had good expressions. Like I thought about them because they have the same kind of modeling and structure of like King Kong, the early King Kong. And I remember that one always just being, he's like smiling all the time. And they were like, we can't do shit with his eyes.
It's like a mix of that and the Yeti from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. But like his eyes are just piercing and there's kind of like a great sort of humanity to it. Where like, there's even a moment where it realizes it has like a what have I done moment.
Right.
It like kills an ape when it's under duress and then it comes back and is looking at the blood on its hands and you could just see this regret in its eyes. It's so wild how much life they put into those lifeless dolls. And then these actors are over here.
No sign of life in those eyes at all.
Oh my God.
We didn't even talk about before they leave on the expedition, they go to have that conversation with that doctor who has taken the brain out and put it in a jar. And he's like, oh yeah, there's a scar in this brain because someone performed surgery on this Yeti and brain surgery on a live Yeti and cut its brain in a specific spot that would make it feel great emotional pain at all times.
Oh yeah.
Like, this Yeti was a tortured soul and that like he was fighting against the local people because he just was hurt so badly.
Oh my God. Yeah. He talks, it's like there's a pseudoscience where he's like, it connects your upper brain to your lower brain or some shit. And he's like making it up as he goes.
It's like a staircase.
Yeah.
And it's like they're like, oh, wait a minute. Some advanced person is performing horrifying surgery on these Yetis who could do such terrible things. And, then they go off to find a Yeti, assuming like, oh yeah, we'll just go into the woods and like figure out where the Yetis live. Like not thinking like, oh, what evil forces are afoot here that could be, doing these horrible things. Like, does not once cross their minds when they go on the trip that they might encounter.
Well, when they get to the skull cave, they take a pause and they ask, who's an adult here who wants to go in?
Who's out?
Yeah. Not when they see the weird glass dome that's hot as fuck.
Yeah, British lady's like, look, I know no nobody signed up to go into a literal skull cave. So like, if you want out, I guess you could just walk back to the United States.
Yeah. Good luck finding your way through the forest that has toxic and deadly animals.
Yeah. Not only do they see the like hot fucking tower or whatever, which never
they talk about it.
Explain?
They explain it as a hydro generator.
Part of the hydroelectric.
Yeah, it's a hydroelectric generator. It's a solar heater.
They don't explain why there are multiple of them.
Because they all heat the river, and then that does some shit.
Yeah. They also see some dead ape people in a ransacked ape town.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, so it's like they've already gone past, so many questionable things, and it's like, now should we turn back?
Yeah, that's right. They, no matter what, they're always just like, that's interesting. Continue to press forward.
We have to continue on for science.
Yeah. Also,
right.
This trope is used in so many movies, but when there's a larger animal or like a predator animal or something, is there only ever one footprint of it somewhere? Like, what's that about?
And Siku, literally half his lines were just Yeti, and then they would run over and see a massive footprint in the ground, just one. Like, oh, he must be close by. They would never see a second. I know the guy has a long gait. But how much further away can the other footprints be?
Yeah, like seriously, what is he jumping on one foot several feet? Man, yeah, they really short-rounded Siku, and it was very sad. I wanted him to have more of a character arc and less of a okie dokie Dr. Jones like to everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Right,
it's a real bummer.
They basically told you they were writing him out of the movie when Rondo Montana was like, all right, Siku, I'm pretty sure the danger's going to be this way, but you stay here and you'll be totally fine, I'm sure. It's like, okay, so you're killing him off now is what you're telling me.
They're standing in front of Lizard Capital Town.
Yeah, of course, right? USA.
And about to walk into it. Yeah, about to walk into it. And he tells Siku, like, hey, something might come from behind us where we've seen nothing. So you stay here just in case something comes behind us while we walk into this fucking town of lizard people.
Yeah.
And here, have the only weapon we have.
Yeah, and then they go into that non-Euclidean UFO where it's like the fucking ladder up to that thing is like right up to a porthole, and then the rest of the ship's still in frame. And then when they get up into it, because the ladder's only like 20 feet, then it's like this massive sprawling arc from like Prometheus that they like, and they trigger that hologram of the alien that goes.
Dude, that when that alien started talking, and they have no idea what's going. It's like a hologram of the alien. They push a button, I guess, and it
they push it. No,
they
don't
find
push
the like vibrator that was in the hands of the dead pilot.
It's a hypersonic dildo.
Honestly, I was like, that alien could be saying anything, and we never find out. He could be alien Hitler giving like a speech about their supremacy or something. We have no clue.
It showed it like they were like clearly like we came here and we were drilling into the rock, and then like we're fucking around with Yetis, and that's pretty much all that the like educational film did. Which I would have loved it. Okay, this is gonna be me diverting what this movie could have been in another light, but if it had been, again, to the comedic point, it's like a 1950s kind of, educational reel that run in schools where they show like the other aliens, and one of them's clearly like little Timmy in the striped shirt with like the shorts like skipping, and they have a whole educational film about going to Earth to colonize it or something, and it's all in the alien language, and they're like, what the fuck is any of this? What do they mean? Why are they they look like us? And like just something that wasn't, here's a planet, here's like, we came here to do whatever the fuck. I didn't care. Even at one point, one of the characters goes, this is so frustrating. And I was like, yes, it is. Just this whole scene.
And they just immediately infer all of these things about this alien species based on just stumbling into a hologram in a random video in a foreign language that they can't understand. They're like, oh, these alien creatures must have come here over 100,000 years ago. Like, how do you know that? I don't fucking know. They pulled it out of their ass and it's just fact, and they move forward.
One of them should have been holding a script while they said it.
You're right. Yeah. It's like, oh, this footage is dated. But we carbon dated this.
Yeah.
But it's like they assume all these things, and they're like, oh, this was clearly a peaceful, cerebral, calm species that came here and then like intertwined their DNA with Neanderthals because they were cold-blooded and wanted to be warm-blooded, and like potentially like devolved into this violent species. Like they're just coming up with all this shit off the top of their heads. Like, oh, these must have been these peaceful higher beings that just turned into monsters when they mixed their DNA with
bad
humanity's
genes.
ancestors.
It's a eugenics assumption, basically.
It's just so fucking wild. And like, okay, wait, they're in this random valley in the Himalayas where apparently Neanderthals still exist. In nowhere else in the world, they still exist there, and these aliens of super high intelligence come there and just never leave that valley for 100,000 years. They just hang out there and just fuck around with Neanderthal DNA.
It's the Valley of Plenty. They talk about it being an experiment too. They're like, the temperature never changes. Maybe they have a control group here. And like, again, like everybody is Captain Exposition on this Captain Expedition, and like they just continue to spout random nonsense at every turn. They're all so confident, none of them could be scientists because none of them are skeptical about what each other says. They're just like, oh yeah, of course, that makes so much sense. And then they just go through it.
They conclude that these are the stupid lizard.
Oh my God, I loved that line.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, these must be don't worry about these guys. These are like the dumb working class aliens of this super intelligent species that has discovered interstellar travel. We can handle them just fine.
Right.
They're like the random shitheads that clean your bathroom. Like, oh my God, just such classist bullshit.
Yes. Yeah. It immediately was that like, especially like old B movies like this, where you're like, there's a thin veil of racism over the top of it. That it was like
exactly
it was like
that.
Tarzan finding the savage. You know, they're like the savages or
there's
whatever.
like very
right?
little
Like,
veil there. It's you see
yeah,
right through
yeah.
that shit.
Yeah, they talk about where when the cells and like Matt's like, yeah, I can still see the animal inside them. You're like, okay, come on, Matt, you fucking idiot. Like, yeah, everybody says each other's name. I know we all don't remember all of the cast names, but everybody says their name like you're at a party and you just remembered what somebody's name is and you want them to remember yours too. They're just constantly like, Matt, look at this. Matthew, Matt. And I want to make a super cut of every time they say a character name because it's like 90% of this fucking movie.
There was the lead character, Matt, aka 90s haircut bro.
Yeah.
With like at least 3 times in the movie said, Claire, everybody, come look at this.
Yeah, it's when you know somebody really closely, but you want to be inclusive of your other people, and you just forget about them. Oh yeah. One thing that I'm kind of curious about, not that it would make this movie better, but do you feel like this movie, because we've talked about being an homage to 50s movies, those having kind of an overt racism to them, but those movies
and
also
clearly King Kong.
Yeah, and King Kong,
1933,
and like,
which is a fucking wonderful movie.
Oh yeah, that's a fantastic film. And like the homage to like Ray Harryhausen and all of this, it's kind of like the entertainment of like a bygone era. Let's not talk about the art of it, but like that this could have done better, because we've talked about like, okay, these characters, they stay like Siku stays behind because the action's all ahead. But there's nothing terrible that happens to anybody except for one of them gets shot in the gut with like an arrow really fast after she does something stupid.
Yeah, she hangs around for way too long.
She looks for too long at the Yeti, and she doesn't even say anything to the Yeti. She really should if she was going to get shot. But
always love to see British colonists getting murdered on screen.
You know, I'm
it's
cool
great.
with that. Yeah, it's not bad. Do you think that this movie would have had more entertainment value or been more engaging if there had been a bit more edge to some of that? Like real stakes, not B-movie stakes of like, we got to save the world from these aliens, but like actual interhuman, like we're going to lose, like Siku gets captured or is being tormented, and they're intersplicing between the crew that's going ahead and how they left him behind and how they don't come back for him or something like that. Like,
I mean, the biggest problem with this movie is the script, right? And like the dialogue is terrible. The characters are incredibly thin. If they gave you a reason to care about any of these people, the movie would be much more affecting and much more interesting. But there's no thought that went into any of that, right? Like, as bad as the acting is in this movie, the writing is worse.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to give a fuck about anything that happens to these people when the writing is so terrible and the actors have nothing to say, right? The actors are all bad at their jobs, but they don't have anything to work with.
Yeah. Even a good script can make a bad actor look good, depending upon like what the dialogue is. And, you know, a good actor can take a bad script to a certain level a certain way. Like I've seen Bob Odenkirk read from The Room script, and he's great. He does a great job.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you have both, then you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
For everything else. And like, as much as the stop motion didn't really vibe with you, Dixon, I fucking I admired the scrappiness of it. It's clearly like lower budget. It's from people who are passionate about that particular technique. I'm not familiar with that.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah.
It was the best part of the movie by far.
Yeah, but it's nowhere near like the other kind. It really did have that feeling of like King Kong because you could see the fur moving as they were like moving that stuff around. I love seeing that kind of tangibility in it. But yeah, everything beyond it was just kind of like, it's all set dressing because somebody just really wanted to do Ray Harryhausen style stop motion, and that's about it. So this movie could have been like an hour, and I would have been happy with it. But it was like, what was it, like an hour and 40 or something? Absurd.
Yeah, we're missing like the meat of it, which is the fucking lizard Coliseum gladiator people battle.
The Coliseum scene was so fucking fun, though. I felt like I had a good time with that shit. When they discover that the aliens have turned into lizard people, like they were some weird grays before, but then they became lizard people somehow.
Yeah.
Who knows? Eugenics,
Because
bad genes.
Maybe they wanted to be warm-blooded and splice their DNA with Neanderthals, ?
So strange.
Entirely
unclear.
Yeah, something fucking weird and racist probably. That's underneath
that, the British lady keeps saying something about them having become savage or something.
Of course
I didn't really
because we are
understand.
the real monsters, Ryan. They combined their DNA with apes, and then
specifically
they became
British
evil.
apes.
Yeah, right.
Like,
so they went from pacifists to just like warmongering gladiator spectators.
You know what I kind of liked about it was that I felt like it has, beyond talking about like their genetics and like where they might have come from or that stuff. I think when they have that scene where Matt is like, I can still see the animal inside of them, and it's like a fucking terrible line, but I get the underlying concept of like that it is that capacity for evil that like any conscious being has, that any hyper intelligent being can have too. And that like these aliens came from the stars to just subject Yetis to Coliseum fights. Because they like roll open the doors, they capture all of them.
The Yetis appear to maybe be pacifists themselves, so they've had to implant a chip to piss off the Yeti to make him fight. I guess like hitting a bull in the balls.
Yeah.
They shoot them with like a ray gun into the scar in their head, and that makes them angry and want to hit things.
Because the aliens have invented ray guns, but not batteries to go on these chips or some kind of embed that could help it. It seems like a very inefficient way to torment somebody from afar. You have to have a certain range.
Well, we all
distance.
know that alien tech is based on ray guns. Come on.
Yeah.
Just Alien 101.
Yeah, we all saw Independence Day. We know what this is.
Maybe they were just a bloodthirsty gladiatorial race, and they ran out of Yetis to kill on their own planet.
They're like space Spartans.
Yeah, and then they came here like, well, we need to find massive creatures somewhere else that we can torment and make them fight each other.
They did have a space queen, and that queen did pass judgment on people. Colosseums. We just watched Gladiator.
Wait, how was it a queen?
I don't know if it was a queen, but it just seemed
we have
royally
no idea.
a queen.
Yeah,
I just assumed
it had like a crown and shit, and it thumbs up, thumbs down at the Colosseum. I guess.
Yeah, space royalty, whatever.
Yeah,
the space emperor, empress doesn't matter.
It was Lisa. I am the lizard queen.
Give her these and also these. Thank you, doctor. Oh, I'm not a doctor. But yeah, like that whole sequence where they're like, where are they taking us? What could they possibly do? And then it's just this big ass Coliseum. I was impressed. They had all the little tiny figures that are moving around. Everybody's whooping and hollering and like ready to see an ape v Yeti fight. And then it's the most disappointing fight ever.
Yeah. The creature that you think is going to win is the one that wins.
Yeah.
It's important surprise. It's important to also note that the ape people are dudes in ape costumes, not stop motion.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. They weren't going to go that far. And also they picked the ape dudes that don't know how to use tools. They should have picked those post 2001 monolith apes. That really would have helped. Like, oh man. But no, like one of them gets smashed that's also funny because anytime they get smashed, they don't show it except for the beginning of the movie. And they show that brother getting smashed by the Yeti and he does like a magic trick and disappears into the ground. It's like something that Job would pull off. Like the Aztec tomb. It's the Yeti's mountain, Michael.
I imagine the Alliance is going to frown upon this.
But yeah, like that whole sequence is the tour de force of their stop motion. It's everything the movie's been building towards. And the moment that it ends, like it gets kind of wacky and wild for a little bit. Like Montana breaks out and he's over there like fucking around trying to kick. He kicks an energy pylon that he thinks might be connected. That's another thing. They all get fucking lucky. They get too lucky. He kicks that energy pylon and it goes right to the gun. Intuitive knowledge. Fucking Matt, 90s shirt dude, just hops into a seat and is like, I know how to blow this dam. Let me show you how these tools work. This is one of those movies where people get in a helicopter and they just know how to work it, even if they haven't had experience. So, yeah, that's a brief moment of respite from the rest of the film.
Yeah, I guess it had like a switch and some buttons or some shit, and he just hits them, and it
he
just
has to charge that
to...
crystal, and then he cranks the thing, and then he turned a button, and then it shot.
Yeah, which is that like the alien technology is essentially the same as our technology. Like I always love that.
Well, yeah,
like,
they're from
I can understand. I can understand that the stupid lizard people made spears because it's like a simple step forward. But the fact that like their technology is kind of the same as ours, like maybe they're smarter. We don't really know. Maybe they are actually smart, and they have like learned about humans.
Yeah, it could be the case. But also it doesn't explain how Matt's able to move that gigantic steel cannon with just his body. Yeah. I highly doubt that those gears would change it.
That reminds me, you're talking about alien tech being just like human tech. Do you guys follow John Carpenter on Letterboxd? Did you see that he joined Letterboxd like a month ago?
Amazing.
And it's just been like on cocaine responding to as many people as possible about his movies. Like an absurd, like a weekend that he just like didn't sleep and just like posted reviews about his own movies and just started like responding to other people about them. But he reviewed I don't remember what it was, and I was just scrolling through all the crazy shit that he wrote. But like there's a movie that he reviewed poorly and he said, why do aliens always have to look like humans? Like what the fuck is going on with this? We're like, why do they have two eyes and a head and arms and shit? You know, he's like the thing is how you fucking do it. Like that's the way you portray aliens.
Right. Yeah, I totally was like, I had the same thought during this movie, and I was like, man, Arrival's great.
Yeah, Arrival is
like
great.
right, like it actually gives us something interestingly different alien-wise.
It's so cool. And yeah, this is again like that 50s mindset where it's just like, oh fuck it, we'll just make it look like us. We'll make it do things like us and whatever. But
I could get some like convergent evolution.
Yeah.
But you could still play around to like maybe they converge to like a centipede-ish kind of thing or something, like just something else other than
put its ass on its face. God damn it, do something.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy that Arrival is such a good movie and it stars Jeremy Renner. Like that's quite a feat of cinematic ingenuity to be able to pull that off. I mean, even like Amy Adams is wonderful and you know she's the lead, but when you have Jeremy Renner as a love interest, I don't know how you make that work, but Villeneuve pulls it off.
Yeah. Maybe they should get Jeremy Renner for one of these B movies and he would fit along with the rest of the cast.
Yeah. No, I think that could work. Yeah.
Compared to like so there's been other movies that contemporarily will try to do B movie throwbacks. And I think especially of like Cowboys and Aliens, which is a Jon Favreau film. I think I talked about that.
That movie's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just disappointing, but is there a sweet spot? Like, is there a version of this movie that you would have enjoyed to have seen, like, if it was still this homage, like, that you would have resonated with? Or is it just like, no, this particular genre or style probably never will resonate? So, I mean, B movies were schlock then. B movies are schlock now.
I think this could be done well. Like, there's a really stupid 50s sci-fi movie that I liked called Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. That's
you told me about that.
Fucking ridiculous bullshit that doesn't make any sense, but it's funny, all right? Like, it's not a good movie, but I enjoyed it, right? And like, you can do stuff like this and make it not terrible, right? Yeah. And it's like Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, it's not a good script, but like, my God, it is infinitely better than this pile of shit that seems like it was written by a 13-year-old who like just learned how to interact with girls for the first time. You know? Like it's like I don't know what this is. Like the schlock from the 50s was at least made by the studio system, which had lots of issues at the time, but like they were competent people who liked making movies and could do it well, even if the subject matter was not like high art, right? Like, and the effects were kind of dopey, right? They could at least put together a solid script, shoot it well, have decent actors in it, and have it work. And there's just none of that in this movie, you know? So like, I feel like you could make a movie like this movie and have it be good if you just actually have a good writer and a good cinematographer and good actors, and like the animation's cool, right? Like even though the plot is stupid, like I can still get into it if it can hold my attention. And I was just like trying to stay awake the whole time.
Yeah, I agree. I had to pause this movie because I was like, I need to wake up and go somewhere, come back.
And go run a lap around the house and come back.
Exactly.
I think that there are definitely older movies in this vein that you could go back to, like the Harryhausen, like Jason and the Argonauts or something. They're not great, but they're fine and they're kind of fun. And there's more action through them. Like that's one of the other problems is this one is awfully boring until it's fun for a little bit and then it just is done. Right. And I think that you could do sendbacks and do something interesting. Like actually the Disney movie Atlantis, it's one of those that like during the time it wasn't well known, but I think now like people didn't like it, but now it's kind of looked back on. It's honestly exactly a 1950s serial throwback.
Yeah.
And does it well and fun and new. Right. So just like something like that, you can pretty much just be like, yeah, we're going to, I mean, honestly, like Indiana Jones was that.
Yeah.
But the newer Indiana Jones are also that and they suck. But the original good Indiana Jones were that and they're good.
This is better than Indiana Jones and the piece of shit, whatever the
Dial of
recent
Destiny?
one was. Dial of Destiny.
Yeah.
This is better than that because it's shorter.
Yeah. Telling me the Nazis want to get to the Yeti? God damn it. I'm tired of coming out of retirement for this shit. How much are you paying me? All right,
and no one survives a nuclear explosion from being inside a refrigerator.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. But
Indiana Jones should just go into schlock now. I would watch.
It is. It literally has. Like, that's what it is at this point.
But it's not fun schlock, is it?
No.
So it needs to do something absurd.
Yeah.
Like it's that fucking Johnny Quest and the Mystery of the Yeti Snow Princess. Come on, get Indiana Jones in a Johnny Quest style timeline.
Where Indiana Jones falls in love with the Yeti Snow Princess.
Yeah, why not? Hey, fuck it. Like Indiana Jones explores interspecies erotica. Sure.
I like it. Yeah. I want to talk about the very end of this movie. So
let's do it.
The scene where they encounter, end of the first act of the movie, they encounter the first massive glass dome thing in the snow. All of a sudden it gets super hot and the snow melts and they fall through the ground and they make it look like they fall like 10 feet and then they like look back up at the top and they've fallen like 200 feet.
So
like, wait a minute, how did any of these people survive? This is fucking wild. There's like elderly people with them. This old British lady has not broken any bones. That's bullshit. But then they like, walk forward and they're like, okay, I guess we can't get back out that way. I guess we have to go into the valley. So they walk into the valley and then the rest of the movie happens and they encounter all this shit. But then at the end of the movie, they're like, I guess we have to leave now and go home. And they walk right back into the place that they left when they tumbled down this cliff. And like, I guess we can't go that way. So it was like, I want the post, it just cuts to black as they walk back into the cave that leads to the place where they fell into.
You want that
post-credits? I want the post-credit sequence where they walk back and like, oh yeah, I forgot. There's a cliff here. And then they have to like figure out how to get out.
It's like 5 minutes at the end of the movie after the credits where they're like, Matt's like trying to put Claire up on his foot to get her to climb. And he's like, just fucking grab it. Are you grabbing it? No?
Well, they left Claire to die, so she's
oh, that's
gone,
true.
but,
Yeah, sorry, I forgot Claire died because it was so unremarkable the way she did.
Rondo's trying to figure out some way to scale the cliff face and get out of there.
Rondo's trying to climb in and he can't climb in and he falls back down and he's like, Matt, give me your belt. And Matt's like, Rondo, it's not going to work. And he's like, just fucking give me your belt. And it's like trying to lasso it.
It's 100 feet up that wall, Rondo. We're not going to make it.
It's like
how fucking stupid do you have to be to end your movie going back to that fucking wall? It's a valley, right? That can't be the only entrance or exit to or from that valley. There has to be other ways that they can get out of this thing. This isn't some sequestered underground dome that they are stuck inside of, right? They can see the goddamn sky. They can find another way to get out of that thing.
I bet they eventually Rondo's like, maybe we should go back to the alien encampment and see if we can find that drill gun. They end it there.
Let's see if we can work the alien spaceship.
Yeah. It's gone in the water. Fuck it, whatever. Let's get a Yeti to help. Maybe there's more than one.
Yeah, maybe we can get some Yetis to get on each other's shoulders and pass us up over the wall.
Make a chain of Yetis. How else did the Yetis get out? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's go back to the Nutsack Village. Maybe they have ladders. Oh, man. Ryan, did anybody else watch this with you? I assume no.
No. Yeah, I told Darla ahead of time. I was like,
you're not going to want to watch
I'll just watch it because you're not going to like it. And then, after watching it, I was like, she wouldn't have liked it. She would have just been like, it was boring.
This would have been a Joe Shoshiro situation.
Yeah, yes. I saved her the time.
Nicely done. I didn't save Sasha the time. Sasha watched half of it and was like, that was fucking weird. And I have no interest in finishing
the
it.
The first half or the second half?
The first half. She saw the Yeti, and then after that, she was like, nah, I'm not really.
Yeah, they tease you with the Yeti at the beginning, and then they take way too long to get to anything interesting.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. It's a real dry spell in that movie.
By the way, the press conference scene at the beginning of the movie when they're unveiling the thing and they pull down the curtain and there's the taxidermied Yeti just standing there massively on the stage. The journalists are so unimpressed.
I love the journalists.
They're all
so good.
They don't believe that it's a real thing. Which, I probably wouldn't either if I was summoned to this press conference where this British twat is like, we expect you to put all of the materials that we gave you into your articles about this. We expect you to regurgitate the propaganda that we're giving you about these Yetis. And it looks so fake and so stupid.
You think we would piss off the Nepalese government for this?
Yeah, but they don't provide any video. They don't provide they don't let them see the skeleton in the back or the brain in the jar or anything. They're just like, we taxidermied this Yeti. Isn't this great? This is a huge step forward in scientific discovery. And the journalists are like, fuck off, and they just leave, basically. There are 2 or 3 questions asked in the entire press conference, and that's it. That's all the questions people have on a massive university announcing the discovery of a Yeti. 2, 3 questions, they're out. They don't have time for this shit.
Yeah, one of those journalists didn't even remember his lines all the way. He just kind of stumbled halfway through a question.
Which, one of the plot points, is that our kid, I guess, talked about Yetis in the past, but he didn't follow up enough on the science proof of it.
Yeah, our boy wonder.
And British lady chastises him for it. But now that they have a Yeti, she's like, yeah, you were right after all, now that we have this Yeti. But they don't science that up other than just having the Yeti.
And he's like, where's my PhD then? And she's like, well, you weren't right at the time.
I would have loved if at the end of it, they ADR'd in when they're like, let's go back to the tunnel or whatever. And somebody's like, man, you got a lot to write for your book, don't you? And he's like, you should see my report on the Mothman or whatever.
Something else. Yeah.
Give me a stupid teaser about something stupid. There's got to be something else that there could be shitting on. The chupacabra.
Yeah. I was literally, the word was in my mouth as you said that.
Oh, man. Yeah, anyways. Well, let's get into if we would recommend it or not. Ryan, would you recommend it despite the fact that you've already said this at the beginning?
Yeah. No. I mean, hopefully someone puts up a YouTube video of the animation part.
Yeah.
And then you can watch that.
Yeah, just skip all the live action pieces.
Yeah, skip everything else.
That's called what is it? A reel? A professional reel? That's the YouTube part of that.
Right. In finishing out this movie and editing it, they just needed to jump to that almost immediately. Like they get there, they walk past it doesn't even fucking matter. The tower thing doesn't even matter. There's some explanation of like the reason they can have this society in the Himalayas is because they have these hydroelectric dam.
Yeah.
I guess, but it's really fucking doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing we felt like we needed to
Nobody
explain.
cares.
Like doesn't
Nobody
matter.
gives two shits about that.
Yeah, you could honestly just have them go look for the Yetis, immediately run into Lizard Town, and then have a bunch of adventures in Lizard Town, including the Coliseum and other shit. Like,
yeah, it just.
I thought there might even be some kind of like Planet of the Apes thing where suddenly the lizards are like, oh my god, the humans can talk, because they've only interacted with
Yetis,
ape people,
Yeah.
and a Yeti. Yeah, that even if they didn't understand what the humans were saying, it would be clear to them like they have a language. Like, yeah, there's something.
Oh my god, if they had like a
potentially
trial
there.
scene or some shit, that'd be great.
Hundreds of Beavers-esque.
Yeah, Hundreds of Beavers-esque. It would have been so amazing. Come on, get the simple southern lizard
the lizard
man
comes
in there.
out, yeah, with his suspenders.
And the jury's like nodding along.
I'm just a simple country lizard.
Anyways, Dixon, would you recommend this?
No, definitely not. Have you guys ever seen the Animal Planet show Finding Bigfoot?
Yeah, I think I have.
I always think about that whenever there's a
some of
reference
it,
to
yeah.
Yetis or Sasquatch or anything. And it's like one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's like, Ghost Hunters, but for Sasquatch. And it's always like, every time it's like an elderly couple that's like, we definitely saw a Sasquatch in these here woods in like, backwoods Louisiana or something. And they're like, I was driving down this highway going about 70 miles an hour and I saw a 9-foot Yeti in the woods right over there. And they're talking to the Finding Bigfoot people and they're like, oh, you definitely saw a Squatch. Like, definitely 100% sure you saw a Squatch. Like, couldn't be anything else. Couldn't be that you're old and blind and lonely. Couldn't be any of those things. You definitely saw a Squatch. And then, like, every single sighting is during the day, yet every time they go look for a Sasquatch, it's at night.
Right.
Every time. And they're all, like, searching through the woods with their night vision cameras. Like, and the cameras are just looking at the people looking for the Sasquatch, not seeing what they're seeing. And they're like, oh my God, I heard a rustle in the trees. That's a Squatch. And like, they're like trying to like flush out the Sasquatch and all these things. And like, there's an episode that I will never forget where this guy's like, I heard a Squatch. I'm going to do the Sasquatch mating call.
Oh, amazing. Here we go.
Like, yells into the woods. And I'm like, all right, I have a few problems with this. One, assuming you know what a Sasquatch mating call sounds like, these are the most reclusive creatures on planet Earth if they are real. And you think that yelling into the woods is going to bring it out at you. Second of all, if you do know what a Sasquatch mating call sounds like, what do you think is going to happen next?
Yeah. Oh my God. That's like when they're like, they're attracted to Squatch urine. Get the Squatch urine out. And they bring a jar of like yellow liquid.
Yeah.
I bought this
Gatorade.
Yeah. I bought this off a hunter. Said it's Squatch urine.
Oh my God.
Got news for you, buddy.
I want to create a show called Scamming Finding Bigfoot, where you just like lure them out and you do all of that stuff. And then when they do the Squatch mating call, you sprint out of the woods in a gorilla costume and just start humping the shit out of them. Just,
my God, I was humped by a Squatch once.
Do you set up like a stuffed Yeti with like boobs?
Good question.
Bugs Bunny style.
Yeah. You put Squatch urine on it and you wait out. Yeah.
And you talk about how, like this works.
Dixon, you're talking about Shriek of the Mutilated, your worst movie of 2023 or two?
That was a really bad movie. Watching real people fuck around in the woods acting like they're looking for Sasquatch is way more entertaining than Shriek of the Mutilated.
I will also never forget seeing a clip of one of those Squatch fucking TV things, and like the guy was from like South Carolina, and he's like, Squatch came at me from over yonder, and I grabbed me a stick and gets to rough talking him, and I said, go on now, get. Get out of here. It's like amazing. This is just brilliant. Great Squatch deterrent.
Whenever I see something about a Yeti or a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, like my mind immediately goes to that TV show. Not? And there was like, I don't know. I was still in college, so a long time ago, like me and one of my roommates like got into that show as a joke, and we watched probably like 10 episodes of it over the course of like a semester. And just like things that I will never forget from that show. Like there was one where they had like a convention of people coming together to talk about all their Squatch sightings. And it was like, this is just incredible. And they had one cast member who was a woman who was like supposed to be like the scientist who was like serious and the skeptic, and all these other dudes who were like, oh, this fucking Squatches are real. And this woman is like there to purposely be like, I'm a scientist and I just cannot deny all the evidence I've seen. I was very skeptical when they asked me to come on this show about finding Bigfoot, but now I'm a true believer based on all the evidence I've seen in front of me.
Oh my God. That's usually how it goes for those shows. They have to do something every season and eventually introduce those characters. Mm-hmm. Well, I would also not recommend this unless you're super high on drugs or high on Ray Harryhausen.
Which ones?
Any of them? Sure. Why not? Fuck it. Have an experience. If you're really into Ray Harryhausen, then maybe this is for you. You might have a little bit of fun, but definitely that in-between segment, it's okay to skip past some of that to the good stuff. Just like, fine, you're not going to miss a whole lot. It's just a bunch of characters not actually having any development. So that's the most I could say for it. I definitely
fast forward through to Ballsack Town and
get to Ballsack Town. Get to the racist alleyway mugging in which Rondo Montana shows up. That scene is wild in its own. But yeah, the rest of it you can leave. You can leave behind you. I'm sorry, David Allen, the spirit of David Allen. I could sense you in the beginning and the end, but nowhere in the middle. I feel like somebody should have stopped you in the script. But there you go. Well, that's been it for us on this episode. I have been your host, John Garcia. Folks, you really don't have to go see the Primevals. It's part of Schlocktober. It wasn't even part of the lineup. I told you, Dixon, it wasn't part of my official lineup. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he just watched some extra Schlock for fun on top of the 31 Schlock movies that he's watching.
So, I've done my civic duty here by warning the public and brought you all along with me. My co-hosts as well with me.
Ryan King, you just pass on everything Full Moon has produced. I won't bury the lead for later.
There you go. And also,
Michael Dixon, thanks for putting up with our Yeti shit.
Hey there, movie buffs, TV toughs, and all listeners in between. John here from the Afterthoughts podcast. I just wanted to drop in at the end of this episode and say thanks for listening. If you've got afterthoughts of your own to share, hit us up. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Afterpod, or jump into a conversation on our Discord server. You can find info for this and more at theafterpod.transistor.fm. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.